compressed to attain the present size. The swelling is not associated with pain. No history of referred pain in the ear. No history of variation in size of the swelling or pain during meals. No history of sudden increase in size of the swelling. No history of discharge from the swelling. No history of difficulty in swallowing. No history of restricted mouth opening or chewing of food. No history difficulty in chewing of food. No history of fever. No history of trauma. No history of deviation of angle of mouth or difficulty in closing the eyelids. No history of any other swelling on the opposite side of the face or the neck. Past history. No history of similar complaints in the past. No history of diabetes mellitus, hypertension, tuberculosis, bronchial asthma, epilepsy. Treatment history. Not taken any medication for the present condition. Not on any other medications. No history of previous hospitalization or surgeries. Family history. No history of similar complaints in the family. Marital history. Married and has two children. Menstrual history. Attained menopause 2 years back. Personal history, a non-vegetarian, appetite is good, sleep is adequate and undisturbed, bowel and bladder habits regular, no history of smoking, no history of alcohol consumption. Summary after history. A 52-year-old lady came with painless progressive swelling on the right side of the face below the ear since 2 years. I would like to examine the parotid region.
Okay, okay. First, you go back the uh, second slide. Or next slide. Okay, next slide. So you have asked no history of sudden increase in the size of the swelling.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the reason why you are asking this?
Any malignant change in the swelling will cause sudden increase in the size.
Okay. So the next is no history of discharge from the swelling. Why you have asked the history of discharge from the swelling?
If any fistula connection is there between the swelling and the skin, and there is any
Uh,
infection.
uh, then your presentation will be a different one. The chief complaints will be a different one,
Yes, ma'am.
not a swelling.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
So if the patient history is swelling, so you can assume there is no secondary changes like ulcer or fistula. Or, suppose if we have a viscous communication, the patient's complaints will be a discharge from the region. So
Okay, ma'am.
so that will be a different
Okay,
history.
ma'am.
So suppose if you have a history of discharge in case of parotid swelling, where you have to examine,
Inside the mouth, opening of the parotid duct.
and that is most important. So
Yes, ma'am.
when you ask history of a discharge, then
Yes, ma'am.
you have to ask history of discharge inside.
Inside the
You have
mouth.
to examine.
Yeah, okay, ma'am.
Okay. So otherwise you need not to write the history of discharge from the swelling. If you have an ulcer, you can write. If you have a swelling, you need not to ask the discharge from the swelling. Suppose if you have written and if the examiner asks why you have written, so I just examine discharge from the parotid. There is a
Okay,
duct
ma'am. Duct
inside the
opening.
opening. You have to see.
Okay.
Okay. So then, no history of difficulty in swallowing. Why you have asked difficulty in swallowing?
Ma'am, if there is deep lobe involvement, it can encroach into the tonsillar fossa.
Okay.
So the patient might have difficulty while swallowing food.
Okay. So suppose the patient has a deep lobe involvement, the patient may have a difficulty in swallowing. Okay. So the reason for restricted mouth opening.
Because of the temporomandibular joint which is nearby, ma'am.
Hmm.
So the swelling may press on that, so patient might have trismus.
So what are the reason for trismus?
Involvement of the joint, involvement of the muscles of mastication, like pterygoid muscles.
Okay. What are the okay, what are the muscles of mastication?
Medial pterygoid, lateral pterygoid, masseter,
Hmm.
and temporal.
Okay. So how will you uh, say this trismus is mild or moderate or severe?
Depending upon the amount of opening, by
Mm.
either you can do it by Malampatti grading, ma'am,
Okay. Mm.
and or by the number of finger breadths which is between the upper incisor tooth and the lower incisor tooth.
Second, what's the normal mouth opening?
3.5 centimeters, ma'am.
Is usually 3 point more than 3.5. Suppose if
Okay,
it
ma'am.
is a mild 3.5 to 2.5 and moderate 2.5 to 1.5 or severe is less than 1.5. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So uh, those that this measurement you must know when they ask for a restricted mouth opening.
Okay, ma'am.
Any other reason for this trismus other than this?
Not sure, ma'am. Not
Okay.
sure, ma'am.
Okay. Then why you ask the history of trauma?
Any injury in that region might have caused swelling in the face.
Any?
Injury and trauma to that region would have caused swelling.
Okay. Uh, but what is the history of the duration of the swelling for this
2 years,
patient?
ma'am.
Hmm?
2 years, ma'am. So it's not relevant here.
So not relevant. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So and then history of deviation of angle of mouth or difficulty in closing. Why you have asked all these things?
For facial nerve involvement, ma'am.
So what are all the history you will ask if you are going to uh, whether the facial involvement is there or not?
Deviation in the angle of mouth, difficulty in closing of the eyelids,
Mm.
drooling of saliva on one side,
Mm.
then unable to, the nasolabial folds might not be prominent, ma'am, because when they see on the mirror,
Okay,
some
what are all the muscles that is involved? What are the muscles that is involved in the facial nerve? Suppose facial nerve, if you have a suspicion of facial nerve palsy, what are the muscles for the deviation of the angle? What is the muscle for closing of the eyelids? What's the muscle? And for whistling, what's the muscle responsible?
ma'am, the uh,
Mm. For forehead furrows, what's the muscle
front,
responsible?
ma'am, for the frontal belly of occipitofrontalis, ma'am.
Okay. Mm.
Then for closing of eyelids, orbicularis oculi.
Mm.
Then for buccinator muscle for blowing.
Okay. Mm.
Then levator anguli oris for the deviation of the angle of mouth.
Levator anguli oris. Okay. Mm.
Then platysma, the neck muscle. For the neck muscles, platysma, ma'am. Stretching of the neck.
Okay. Okay. So you must know what are all the muscles that is responsible for. So according to that, you have to ask the history. Okay. So you have asked only deviation of angle of mouth and difficulty in closing. Okay. And no history of swelling. What's the reason for asking that history?
Opposite side, bilateral involvement is there. It can be Mikulicz syndrome or Sturgeon syndrome can also be there.
Okay. What is Mikulicz syndrome? Mikulicz disease?
Mikulicz disease is involvement of both the salivary gland and the lacrimal gland, ma'am. There is a autoimmune disorder in which there is
Mm.
decreased production of both tears and saliva.
Okay. Mm. Okay. So any other swelling in the neck?
Any lymph nodal enlargement, ma'am, if there is some malignancy or something, there can
Okay.
be lymph node involved, metastasis.
Okay. Okay. And for facial now, you can ask any facial asymmetry is there because most of the time when you see the mirror, you can find out the facial asymmetry.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
You can ask that history also. Okay,
Okay.
next slide. Next slide. Past history. Okay. So past surgical history, you didn't ask anything.
Ma'am, I've written the treatment history, ma'am. No history of previous hospitalization or surgeries.
So okay. What surgeries? No history of previous hospitalization and surgeries. What surgery is important?
If uh, if there were any FNACs or biopsies taken in that region,
Hmm.
the biopsy can lead to implantation of, if malignant cells are there, deep implantation of the malignant cells can occur.
So previous history of surgeries in that region, whether patient underwent any uh, surgery, there is a, even as a superficial paratectomy, and then this may be an recurrence one.
Recurrence,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
okay, and are any simple node biopsy the patient may have underwent. So
Okay,
there
ma'am.
is no previous history of surgeries in the past in the region of head and neck.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
so this does not include your surgeries for the sterilization or abdominal surgeries.
Yes, ma'am.
So that should be specific.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
so no history of previous surgeries in the head and neck region. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
next slide. Next slide. Okay, family history. Okay, next. Okay, smoking and alcohol. Okay, so summary. Okay, so the no other comorbid factors. Painless progressive swelling, right side of the face below the right ear. Okay, okay. Examination, you proceed.
Ma'am,
Who is
Jemmy
going
will
to
continue
present?
with the
Jamie.
examination.
Okay. Yeah, ask her to proceed.
General examination, the patient was conscious and oriented, moderately built and nourished, no pallor, no icterus, no cyanosis, no clubbing, no generalized lymphadenopathy, no pedal edema. Her vitals were pulse rate 92 per minute, respiratory rate 14 breaths per minute, blood pressure 110/80 mmHg, temperature afebrile.
Mm.
Uh, Examination of the parotid region. On inspection of the right side, a swelling of size 5 cross 3 centimeter is seen on the right parotid region. It is solitary and oval in shape, obliterating the retromandibular groove and right ear lobule lifted upwards. Surface appears smooth, has regular borders. There is no dilated vein, sinus, or scarred skin. Left side appears normal.
Okay.
Palpation of the right parotid region. There is no local rise of temperature, no tenderness. It is firm as consistency. It has a smooth surface and borders are regular. The swelling is 5 cross 3 centimeter and oval shape. The extent of the swelling, it lies just below the ear lobule, inferiorly up to the angle of the mandible, anteriorly 2
Mm.
centimeter from tragus and posteriorly 1 centimeter from mastoid process. Skin
Mm.
over the swelling is pinchable, not fixed to the underlying masseter. On bimanual
Mm.
palpation, the deep lobe of the gland is not palpable. On
Mm.
bidigital palpation, Stenson's duct is palpable. Left parotid region is normal.
Mm.
Examination of the facial nerve. Sensory and taste sensations are normal. Motor functions. The patient is able to wrinkle her foreheads, able to raise her eyebrows, is able to close both eyes, is able to blow up the cheeks. Both nasolabial folds are prominent. Angle of the mouth is not deviated. No drooling of saliva present. Able to clench the teeth.
Okay.
Examination of mandible. There is no mandibular thickening. Examination of lymph nodes. No enlarged or palpable cervical lymph nodes present.
Mm. Mm.
Oral cavity examination. Mouth opening
Okay.
normal. Nicotine stains
Mm.
present. Opening of
Mm.
parotid duct normal. No discharge. No dental caries. Tongue is moist. Tonsils
Mm.
not enlarged on the right side. No medial displacement of tonsillar fossa, and uvula is on midline.
Okay.
Examination of other salivary glands, they are normal.
Okay.
Systemic examination, respiratory system, normal vesicular breath sounds heard, no added sounds. Per abdomen,
Okay.
soft, non-tender, no organomegaly. Diagnosis, a clinically non-malignant swelling, probably a pleomorphic adenoma of the right parotid gland.
Okay, 1 minute. You go back to the first slide. Inspection. Next. Okay. Swelling is 5 to 3 centimeter, oval shape, obliterating the retromandibular bone and right ear. Why it lifts the ear lobule? What's the reason? Why the parotid swelling lifts the ear lobule?
Ma'am, because it lies below the ear location.
What is the surface marking of the parotid? Anybody, anyone can answer. John V, Harish, Gayatri, those who are all online can unmute and answer. What's the surface marking of the parotid? Jimmy?
Ma'am, it lies on the ascending ramus of the mandible.
Ascending ramus of the mandible and
Below and behind and in front of the ear lobule.
okay. So actually it is wedged in between the posterior border of the mandible and the mastoid process. Okay? So when it gets enlarged, it finds a way to come front and lift the ear lobule. Okay? So that's the reason for lifting the ear lobule. Sometimes you may not see in a case of parotid swelling, the ear lobe will be a normal. Okay, but most of the time, if it grows as it is in between these two bony surface, one is posterior border of the mandible and is the mastoid process. So it gets a way to come and lift the ear lobule. Okay, so surface appears smooth, regular borders, not irregular. Okay, next slide. Okay, so palpation, no local rise of temperature, from inconsistency. Okay. So what is meant by curtain sign here?
The parotid lobe is not, when we push it upwards, it will not move beyond the zygomatic arch.
What is the reason?
Because of the fascia, ma'am, the zygomatic arch will limit the movement.
What is that fascia called?
Superficial fascia, ma'am.
Superficial fascia or? What?
Deep cervical fascia.
Deep cervical fascia வந்து எத்தனை layers இருக்கு? எத்தனை parts இருக்கு?
2 layers. 2 parts.
Cervical fascia வந்து investing layer, pretracheal fascia, prevertebral fascia and carotid sheath 4 இருக்குது. So இதில் வந்து investing layer of deep cervical fascia. So this parotid gland gets enclosed by the investing layer of deep cervical fascia. So அது deep cervical fascia வந்து இங்கே starting occipital protuberance சைட்லேருந்து வரும். ஓகே, அது வரும்போது லோயர் போல் ஆஃப் த parotid gland வரும்போது it gets split into 2 and enclose the parotid. ஸோ அது வந்து சூப்பர்ஃபிஷியல் லேமினா டீப் லேமினா 2 போகும். தட் சூப்பர்ஃபிஷியல் இந்த டீப் cervical fascia தான் false capsule of the gland. இது சூப்பர்ஃபிஷியல் பார்ட் வந்து gets attached to the zygomatic arch. ஓகே, டீப் லேயர் வந்து எங்கே போகும்? So deep is attached to the styloid process and gets thickened to form the stylohyoid ligament. This is very important. Curtain sign kandipa examiner will ask if you have been given a parotid swelling case. So the main thing is to differentiate from the swelling in the swelling that parotid swelling, or in the region of parotid you may get parotid lymph nodes and other benign swellings like lipoma you can get. So that can be moved over the zygomatic bone, and parotid cannot be moved because that will be restricted by the attachment of the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. Okay. And then on inspection, oral cavity you have mentioned there separately. Okay. Where you have to place your finger in case of bimanual palpation for the deep lobe.
One finger will be placed inside the oral cavity.
Where?
Below the lateral to the ascending ramus of the mandible.
The anterior pillar of fossa you have to place. Usually on inspection itself you can find out the medial displacement of the tonsillar tonsils. Okay, so you have to place one finger inside and one finger outside the over the swelling. You can find out the deep lobe involvement. Okay, so where you have to, what's the landmark of your parotid duct, Stenson's duct?
Above the second molar tooth.
It opens in the mucosal aspect of the opposite to the crown of the second molar. That is okay, parotid duct opening. Parotid duct surface marking என்ன போகுது?
Ma'am, 1 centimeter it is extra capsular, and 1 centimeter it is intracapsular.
Okay.
And it pierces it runs over the masseter and pierces the buccinator muscle.
Buccal pada fat எல்லாத்தையும் pierce பண்ணி போறோம். Actually, you have to draw a line from the tragus to the angle of the mandible, angle of the mouth. So இந்த லைன் போட்டுக்கணும், tragus to angle of mouth. அதை மூணா டிவைட் பண்ணிட்டு, ஸோ அதில் the junction lateral that is lateral 2/3 and medial 1/3 you have to start palpating. Now you can find out the thing. Okay. So அதுதான் parotid ductக்கு landmark from the tragus to the angle of mouth. What's the normal length of this Stenson's duct?
5 centimeters.
5 centimeter. Okay. 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 Next slide. Okay. Examination of the facial now is good. Okay. So next slide. And while palpating the duct, you have to ask the patient to clench the teeth. So first you have to do it with the relaxed position, and then you have to ask to clench for both parotid duct palpation and for parotid gland mobility. Okay. So have you mentioned that the swelling is mobile or not? Whether there's any fixed to the masseter? So like
it is not fixed to the masseter.
Okay, so how you examine the masseter?
We have to ask the patient to clench their teeth. So the muscle fibers of the masseter become taut.
So you have to confirm it. So like you are doing for a breast examination, there is the lump is fixed to the pectoral fascia. So like that you have to feel there is a make a swelling, whether it is mobile or not. Then you ask the masseter to contract and confirm whether the muscle is taut by palpating, and then you have to again you have to move the direction along the fibers of the masseter and opposite to that fibers, so that confirm whether it has any fixity to the underlying muscle, that is masseter. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay, so how will you examine the mandible?
Ma'am, by palpation, ma'am, and
Mm.
comparing both the sides.
Okay, compare the both the sides. Okay. And examination of the lymph nodes. How will you examine the lymph nodes?
Ma'am, we have to start with the submandibular lymph nodes, then the
Mm.
upper jugular, middle jugular, and
Mm.
lower jugular lymph nodes, then the posterior triangle lymph nodes, and anterior triangle lymph nodes.
So how many groups of lymph nodes are there?
7 groups are there.
7. So that level of lymph nodes you must know. Okay. Okay. So next slide. So oral cavity examination, opening normal, nicotine seal. So parotid duct. So what are all the discharges you can get from the parotid duct opening?
Ma'am, we can the no, first saliva will be there. Then, if any infection, there will be purulent discharge.
Yes.
Or in case of malignancy, there can be blood discharge, ma'am.
Okay. Sometimes you may see an impacted stone at the submit also. Okay. So where your submandibular gland opening is present? The oral cavity, where your submandibular gland is opening.
Uh, Submandibular gland opens on either side of the frenulum.
Very good. John Way has written. Okay. So on either side of the frenulum, you have to see that also. Okay. So when you examine the oral cavity, the submandibular gland opening also you must mention. Where the sublingual gland opening is there?
Um, at the base of the tongue, ma'am, on plica semilunaris.
Hmm? Sublingual gland go. So most of the sublingual gland directly opens, and sometimes it opens into the submandibular duct only. Okay, drains into the submandibular duct. Very good. So most of the time it's submandibular duct, and sometimes it has a direct opening into the floor of the mouth. Okay. Next slide. Okay, other system normal. Okay, next. Okay. So, diagnosis swelling in the right parotid region, probably pleomorphic, probably benign tumor of the parotid gland. Pleomorphic adenoma வந்து is a cytological. After your FNAC only you
Cytological.
can say. So, diagnosis வந்து age of the patient and with the swelling of this duration, probably benign tumor arising from the right parotid gland. Okay. So, what are the investigations?
FNAC to confirm the cytological diagnosis. USG, CT scan. Routine investigation.
The first
ASR,
investigation,
sugar,
your
and urea.
routine investigations, first you have mentioned. Specific investigation is ultrasound. Okay, first is high frequency ultrasound, and then your FNAC, CT scan. Okay, So, if needed, MRI. Okay. So, what are all the findings you can get from the ultrasound? Ultrasound என்ன பார்க்கலாம்?
Ma'am, we can differentiate if there are any cystic lesions are present in the swelling. We can see if any cystic lesions are present in the swelling.
Okay. Whether the swelling is arises from the parotid or not. That's from the superficial lobe involvement or deep lobe involvement. But more will be on CT scan. At least it will give an idea. And then whether echogenicity, whether it is a hypoechoic or hyperechoic. Okay, so the echogenicity, all this can be, and this in a case of variable consistency, this ultrasound guided FNAC is very, very important. So to guide the FNAC, you have to go for an ultrasound. Okay. So what is the role of a CT scan?
Ma'am, if we can see if extraglandular spread is present, deep lobe involvement can be ruled out.
Okay. The first thing is deep lobe involvement. Second is
Uh, Spread involvement of bone
yes,
or
any extension into the skull base. Suppose deep gland involvement, skull base involvement இருக்கான்னு பார்க்கலாம். அப்புறம் third.
presence of cervical nodes.
Very good. Cervical node.
Parapharyngeal extension.
Okay.
And it can help us to differentiate between tumors arising from parotid or the parapharyngeal space.
Okay, so the basic ultrasound CT scan வந்து in additional what you have told, deep lobe involvement and skull base involvement and node, the cervical neck node involvement and some information about the facial nerve. Okay, whether facial nerve involvement is there or not. Okay, so இதான் வந்து CT scanல. MRI எப்போ பண்ணுவீங்க?
When it's an investigation of choice for staging of the tumor.
Okay, MRI also give a good information regarding the facial nerve involvement. Suppose patient has a clinically no involvement of the facial nerve, but other features suspicious of this sudden increase in size of the swelling. Okay, that time you can go for a MRI. The soft tissue delineation will be good in MRI. Okay, so at all necessary, you can go for a MRI of the neck and parotid region. But CT itself will give a all this idea. There is a deep lobe involvement, extent of the lesion, and node and facial nerve involvement, everything. But MRI, will be soft tissue delineation will be more than that of a CT scan. Okay. So why you want to do an FNAC? Clinically, you are confident that this is a swelling that is arises from the right parotid tumor. Why you want to go for FNAC?
Since the differential diagnosis is a cytological diagnosis, confirm it by doing an FNAC. FNAC will show the epithelial and myoepithelial cells.
So, okay, what is the minimum biopsy that can be taken from the parotid gland? So, minimum biopsy வந்து parotidல என்ன பண்ணணும்? FNAC வந்து cytology. So, what's the minimum biopsy you can take from the parotid? Will you take incisional biopsy or will you take core needle biopsy?
Incisional biopsy.
Incisional biopsy எடுக்கலாமா? What's the disadvantage of this taking incisional biopsy?
We can injure the underlying nerves, ma'am.
So injury to the facial nerve and parotid fistula is more common with your incisional biopsy and core needle biopsy. So that you are not entitled to do that both the core needle and incisional biopsy. Okay. So other than FNAC, the minimum biopsy you are doing is the superficial parotidectomy. Okay. Suppose someone asks, what's the minimum biopsy you will do? You can do a superficial parotidectomy. Okay. So with the FNAC only, the FNAC is important because there are a lot of important things about this FNAC. FNAC it gives an idea whether it's benign or malignant. Okay, one thing, and sometimes you can diagnose tuberculosis with a, suppose if FNAC shows tuberculosis of the tuberculous lesion of the parotid gland. So, what will you do? Whether you will go for a superficial parotidectomy or medical management. Okay. So, and if you diagnose lymphoma by doing FNAC, okay. So, what is the treatment? So, your treatment plan will be depend upon your FNAC. So for that you should have a roadmap. Okay, suppose if the FNAC says as a carcinoma, then your treatment plan will be changed. So always FNAC, even though some people initially tell that FNAC will cause seedling along the needle track. Okay, but nowadays it's not like that. But always you should have an FNAC report before you plan for your treatment management. Okay, so suppose if it is a tuberculosis or if it is a lymphoma, okay, then your treatment plan will be different. You are not going to do a superficial parotidectomy. Okay, and if your FNAC report shows it's a malignancy, then your plan will be different. So after doing your CT scan to know the nerve involvement, you can plan your total conservative or total radical parotidectomy. So always you have to have an FNAC for the parotid swelling. Okay, and more so for getting uh, mm, specificity and sensitivity that will be increased when you take an ultrasound guided. Okay, instead of going FNAC straight away, if you have an ultrasound guided, the sensitivity and the specificity of the, that is the yielding of the FNAC, that is sample, and the report will be very good. Okay, so straight away you can take a point where you have a suspicious, mostly from the solid portion only you have to take, cystic portion you have to leave, and you have to take a, from the solid portion you have to take a FNAC. Okay, so always ultrasound guided FNAC is more sensitive, and FNAC is also always important for planning your further management, because sometimes you may not need a surgical procedure for the swelling, because surgery is mostly associated with the morbidity sometimes. Okay, so patient, because you have a facial nerve in close association with the gland, the injury will be associated with the surgical thing. So always you have to be very careful while doing surgery for the parotid, surgery over the parotid gland. Okay. Any other investigations? So when will you do technician 99 scan? and you have a swelling in the lower pole of the parotid.
Warthin's tumor confirmation, ma'am.
Okay, Warthin's tumor இருந்ததுன்னா you can go for a technetium 99 scan because what is that? That is otherwise also called adeno lymphoma. Okay. ஸோ இது வந்து ஃப்ளக்சுவண்ட்டாக இருக்கும் இந்த டியூமர் மோஸ்ட்லி ஃப்ரம் த லோயர் போல் ஆஃப் த பரோட்டிட் பிகாஸ் இதில் வந்து இட் கண்டெய்ன்ஸ் லாட் ஆஃப் லிம்ஃபாய்ட் டிஷ்யூ அந்த ஸ்ட்ரோமால தட்ஸ் வை இட் டேக்ஸ் த ஹாட் ஸ்பாட் இன் த technetium 99 scan. Okay, the treatment is also the same, superficial parotidectomy. Okay, so what is a superficial parotidectomy, Jimmy? And what is a total conservative? What is a radical?
Superficial parotidectomy is also called as Patty's parotidectomy. It is the removal of superficial lobe of the parotid in front of the fascia-venous plane. Total conservative parotidectomy, the superficial and deep lobes both are removed, and we preserve the facial nerve.
Okay.
In radical parotidectomy, we again remove both the lobes, but here we also remove the facial nerve and some muscles and fascia, like masseter, pterygoid, buccinator, and we also do neck lymph node dissection.
Okay, suppose if the parotid carcinoma parotid involve the local structure, okay, then you can go for a radical parotidectomy. Sometimes you can go with the hemimandibulectomy with a radical neck dissection, okay, and followed by adjuvant RT. Okay. So suppose if the tumor is inoperable and is very much fixed to these underlying structures, what's the treatment? என்ன பண்ணலாம்? So the other treatment is radiotherapy. The option is only
Benign conditions radiotherapy கொடுக்கணும்.
I told the carcinoma. So the carcinoma is parotid fixed to the underlying structures, and then you can go for a radiotherapy. Not for the pleomorphic adenoma or resectable tumors. Resectable tumors கிடையாது. You are not able to go for resection if it is fixed to the underlying structures and involving the skull base. Okay, so that time is an inoperable tumor, and then you can give a palliative treatment. Okay, so the palliative treatment, the radiotherapy is advisable. Okay, because the chemotherapy is a very limited role in the parotid malignancy. Okay, so if at all you can try uh, 5-fluorouracil and methotrexate, but not routine surgery. Surgery is the first option. Okay, so it's inoperable, and you can go for a radiotherapy. Okay. Okay. Theory part, you must study the classifications of parotid tumor. Okay. So what are the classifications? What classification? What is low grade? What is intermediate? And what is high grade tumors? Salivary gland tumors in a classification. So you must know, because frequently it's asked as a long essay question in your university exams. So epithelial tumors or non-epithelial tumors,
connective tissue tumors,
adenoma, pleomorphic adenoma, monomorphic adenoma, and malignancy. What's a common malignancy? Some mucoepidermoid carcinoma and adenoid cystic carcinoma. Okay, the other tumors, lymphoma. So classification is very important. Okay. Okay. You have any doubt? I think parotid usually வந்து short case தான் வைப்பாங்க most of the time. And sometimes you may not get, you have a case only, they will kept as a short case. Otherwise, usually you will not get a case. So any questions? So complications என்னமா ஜெமி? Complications of parotid surgery.
injury to the nerve, ma'am. Hematoma can form. Flap necrosis.
Very good. Flap necrosis.
Numbness over numbness.
Numbness over the mastoid or mandibular region. அப்புறம்
Then due to auriculotemporal nerve, there can be Fraze syndrome, ma'am.
Fraze syndrome. அப்புறம் வெரி குட் ஃபிஸ்டுலா. ஸோ மோஸ்ட்டாக நம்ம இது பண்ணுறது வந்து ஃபேஷியல் நர்வ் இன்ஜுரி, ஃப்ரைஸ் சிண்ட்ரோம், பரோட்டிட் ஃபிஸ்டுலா. ஸோ இதுதான் வந்து காமன். ஸோ ஹவு திஸ் ஃப்ரைஸ் சிண்ட்ரோம் அக்கர்? வாட்ஸ் த ரீசன் ஃபார் த ஃப்ரைஸ் சிண்ட்ரோம்?
It's called as gustatory sweating, ma'am. Because during the surgery, the fibers are disturbed. The fibers reroute and join the sympathetic fibers.
So after injury ஆனதுக்கு அப்புறம் ரெக்கவரியில் வந்து the fibers will join the sympathetic fibers of the இதில் வரும் இந்த cervical ganglionோட போயிட்டு ஜாயின் பண்ணிடுறோம். that supplies the cutaneous vessels. ஸோ அதனால் இங்கே வந்து நீங்கள் by taking food or this thing you will get a gustatory sweating and flushing. இது எப்படி வந்து அவாய்ட் பண்ணலாம்?
We can use antiperspirants.
Okay. அப்புறம்
or we can use thick flap race.
Okay. Surgery அப்போ thick flap raise பண்ணிக்கலாம். அப்புறம்
keep a or we can keep a flap between the skin and the gland. And we can do tympanic neurectomy.
Okay. So tympanic neurectomy can be done. Okay. Okay, ma. Okay, any other thing? எவ்வளோ பேர் ஜாயின் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க? அட்லீஸ்ட் அரௌண்ட் 11 o'clock. The same 47 or it's
54, ma'am.
54, Okay, okay. So you are maintaining the attendance?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good, because you have to submit on Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am. I sent the register. I submit on Tuesday.
Because they will be asking, because you are finishing the posting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. I think steps of parotidectomy, most of the afternoon time, most of the people they want to ask. Okay. Suppose if you want, I will explain. Okay. Parotidectomy, after getting all the investigations and anesthetic assessment, okay, you have to submit the patient on surgery, the general anesthesia usually given, and the position slightly head up position, patient turning to that opposite side. You have to drap such a way that only the uh, ear and the parotid region should be visualized. Okay, so then you have to plug that auditory meatus with the gauze, so that there should not be any fluid gets into that thing, and must put a start an incision in front of the tragus. That is either you can do a that is what is a modified Blair incision. Just to put a vertical incision, and then you just take a curve around the that is ear lobule, and it goes up to the mastod, and then from that you can make a vertical incision along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. Okay, so I think it will be in the Bailey or some book, the incision will be described. Okay, so that is that incision, and then you have to make a deepen the incision up to the parotid fascia, and then you have to raise the flap anteriorly and posteriorly. You have to raise the flap. Then you have to during that you can visualize the posterior auricular nerve in the lower aspect, and then you have to identify the lower pole of the parotid, and you have to lift the lower pole of the parotid, and slowly you have to release, and from that you can identify the facial nerve. First trunk should be identified. There are landmarks for the facial nerve. That is a tragal pointer and the posterior belly of digastric. So, tragal pointer, that cartilaginous and bony part of the auditory meatus, 1 centimeter below and front of the tragal pointer. That's one landmark. And another is you just reach the mastoid process, the sternocleidomastoid, and then you just retract and you find out the posterior belly of digastric muscle. So when you retract the posterior belly of digastric, you can find out the nerve. So first you have to identify the nerve, that is a nerve trunk, that is most important. From that point only you have to go and find out the two main branches, that is zygomaticotemporal and cervicofacial. Sometimes it may be a trunk, or sometimes additional 3 trunks will be there. So you go along the direction of the nerve fibers. You should not go against. So along the direction of the nerve fibers, you go, and slowly you have to separate the parotid tissue, and you have to go till the terminal end of the nerve fibers. So then only you can remove the parotid tissue. So otherwise, if you go fast, you may injure the terminal branch. Okay, so minimum you have to safeguard the 2 important nerves. That is, one is zygomaticotemporal, and another one is marginal mandibular. That is very, very, very important, because marginal mandibular and it's responsible for the deviation of the angle of the mouth and other thing, and cervical, there is a zygomaticotemporal for the occipitofrontalis, that is for the furrows, and also and another thing for the closure of the eye. That these 2 nerve is very important. Sometimes the buccal branch, if you damage, usually it will get regenerate, because most of the nerves they will have an intercommunication. That is called that pest answerness or a ghost food description. So most of them have, but where these zygomaticotemporal and there is a marginal mandibular, they don't have the regenerative potential and they don't have a communication. So once it is injured, it is permanently injured. So the other thing, if it injured because of this intercommunication, it may get regenerator very late. So it's very, very important to find out this all the branches of the facial nerve, and you have to remove the whatever the tissue that is above the nerves. So below the nerve, you can find out the retromandibular vein. Then still deeper, you can find out the carotid vessels. So for superficial parotidectomy, you need to go deep. So just above the facial, there is a facial nerve. You can remove the gland. Okay. So the minimum surgery or the minimum surgery that is done in the parotid gland is superficial parotidectomy. And the biopsy also, if you want to do a superficial parotidectomy, only not a incision biopsy or core needle biopsy. Or suppose if the patient presentation itself is a fungating mass, then you can go for a there is an incision biopsy and other thing. That depends upon the presentation of the case. So suppose if you want to do an total parotidectomy, so just take all the branches, a sling over the all the 5 branches and go below, and you have to take the deep lobe as a piecemeal. Okay, you can't expect it should come as en masse. So you can take it as a piecemeal. So on the like that you can remove the deep lobe of the gland, conservative parotidectomy. And if the facial nerve is involved preoperatively or during surgery, it is very much stuck to the nerve where you cannot preserve the nerve. That time you can sacrifice the nerve also. So after removing all these things, you just give a good saline wash, and then you just close the there is a skin after putting a drain. Okay, so this is the parotidectomy procedure. Okay, any doubt? So before that, the imaging is very, very, very important. So before going CT or MRI, okay. So preoperative facial weakness irundaduna, the radiographic evaluation is very, very important, and nodal involvement irukudanu நம்ம பார்த்துடணும். So that is most important. ஸோ சர்ஜரி அப்போ வந்து ஐக்கு வந்து கொஞ்சம் லூப்ரிகேட் பண்ணிட்டு ஐ க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிக்கணும். அதுபடி இதுவும் வந்து ட்ராப்பிங்கும் ப்ராப்பராக பண்ணணும். அது ட்ராப்பிங் கூட ஏதோ சம் நேம், ஐ ஃபர்காட்டன் த நேம். Okay, any questions? Okay, if there is no question, I think we will close this session. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. See you the next round of
Thank you,
posting.
ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.